A lot of my life, I feel very grateful, let me just say that, for the opportunity to lead the life that I do. But it was very intentional. As I went down different paths, I always steered back to just like really owning whatever it is that I felt truly passionate about. And that has just been an incredible blessing in terms of how it served me in my life and allowed me to connect to just wonderful people along that path.
You're listening to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast. Today I had a wonderful, amazing superstar guest. I'm super pumped if you can't tell. We had a great conversation. The one and only Matt Soule was with us today. Matt is one of the first ever certified Wim Hof Instructor. He also is an entrepreneur. He owns a mixed martial arts studio. He practices jiu-jitsu. He climbs mountains. He does crazy things. He's a wonderful guy. Like, seriously, an authentic, genuine guy. And about 2/3 through the podcast, he even walked us through one of the methods as well. So hang tight for that. Hang on throughout the whole entire episode. It is a good one. He talks about kind of how he got into what he's doing, and you'll be surprised how it happened. It happened a little bit later in life, and some people kind of struggle with figuring out what they want to do, and he saw an opportunity and he took it, and he just went all in, 100% committed. And I really enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. If you haven't been over to my website, it's www.kristoflewis.com. You can find all the podcasts there. You can connect with me, and there's just some fun stuff there. There's an awesome reading list that you can download as well. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy this podcast as much as I do. Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast.
Kristof, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I've already enjoyed talking to you already a little bit off camera. We were saying it's been like a couple months since you've been booked, and I've just been kind of chomping at the bit to get to talk to you because you're just a very adventurous person. You do a lot of things, and you are just one of the first group of instructors to be certified with the Wim Hof Method, and you do a lot of other stuff than that too. Oh my gosh, you do martial arts, you teach that, you practice in jiu-jitsu. There's just a ton of things that you do. And I was just like, man, this is like somebody I got to talk to, not only because you do like really fun, active stuff and mental stuff for yourself, but you're also teaching back as well. So I kind of wanted to dig into your mind and see how you evolved into the person who you are today, man.
Well, awesome. I look forward to talking about that. A lot of my life, I feel very grateful, let me just say that, for the opportunity to lead the life that I do. But it was very intentional. As I went down different paths, I always steered back to just like really owning whatever it is that I felt truly passionate about. And that has just been an incredible blessing in terms of how it served me in my life and allowed me to connect to just wonderful people along that path. So I will say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Connecting to the people, I think when you are that passionate, as you just described with what you're doing, and then you start connecting with people that are doing that as well, I think it just bleeds into each other's lives. And for me, at least, I've become even more impassioned about it. Like, I do this podcast. I'm very passionate about talking to people like yourself and just everything else that comes up with this kind of project. And then I talk to those people and I just get even more excited. Or even when somebody says, hey man, I listened to that conversation with Matt and it was awesome. And I loved when you guys said this. And I'm just like, wow, that just keeps me going. And then just talking to those people is just, honestly, I always describe it, people might think it's cheesy, but I always describe it as like beautiful. But to me, it's like, I love living life and I love all the things that it has to offer. So then when you're able to connect with people, doing things you're passionate about, like, to me, that's beautiful, man. So I'm glad that you're able to do all of that. But a huge thing that this podcast is about, career shifts and maybe like how people got to where they are now. So how did you, like we were saying, kind of evolve into this person? Or were you always this guy that's like, I like to be cold and I like to kick and punch things? Or like, how did Matt become the guy he is today?
All right, so let's dig into that in two parts because they're kind of separate things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ended up overlapping, of course. So the first piece is in terms of the cold, No, I hated the cold. Let me be honest. Like, I grew up in the desert in New Mexico, and so the heat was always fairly tolerable, but the cold was pretty miserable. The experience that I had with it, I can recall as like a 13-year-old boy going down with a family friend to southern New Mexico and having to get into an ice cold river to bathe.
Yeah.
And it's like such a strong memory of like hatred. Do you know what I mean? At that moment where I was like, oh, this is so hard. And, I was a young man and it was still really difficult. And young men have what's called brown adipose tissue typically, which helps you stay warmer and so forth.
Interesting.
So I was like, those kind of memories were like, stirring early. I played soccer all through growing up and so in a number of other sports, but soccer was definitely my primary deal. And so we had to do a few ice baths in high school and college. Again, hated them. They were just like, all right, this is like,
Same.
I got to tolerate this thing because it's going to keep me from not being able to play. It's going to help me keep going. So when I looked into Wim, it was suggested to me actually, just 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago. I was pretty reluctant at the beginning, mostly because of the cold. And
makes sense.
And also, I had a lot of reservation with it. But the fact is like once I got an opportunity to experience the cold along with the breathing and the mindset pieces together, for the first time in my life, I totally recognized the value and benefit of it.
Sure.
And for me, if I see tangible benefits, no matter what I'm doing, inside of like a recognizable short period, like I just go after it.
Absolutely.
And so that like it resonated so strongly with me, frankly, in the first 2 weeks of like consistent practice, that I was like, that's it, I'm in. And that just sort of spearheaded, so on and so forth, like all of my training, and then of course getting into the instructors program and everything else.
Yeah, there's a lot that comes with that. That's really cool. Yeah, it's funny how that happened when you took something that you pretty much despised as a child, especially growing up in like the Southwest, because I'm from Colorado and I played soccer too my whole entire life, so that resonates with me. Although Colorado is pretty darn cold, and I've had my fair share of cold lakes, cold rivers, cold snow, like you name it, like I experienced it. But if you go a little bit more south to like where you were, and you weren't really subjected to that too often, it's kind of funny to me to like see where you wound up right now. But it sounds like that shift was kind of, you said mentally you realized or you saw some things very tangible in the beginning, like very quick, and you're able to latch onto that, and it seems like it kind of happened maybe quick.
Yeah, once I put it all together, the investigation process, like I tried to read Wim's book early on. I think I got a copy of his book early in like 2013. And if you've ever read the original book, The Way of the Iceman, are you familiar with this book at all?
I haven't read it. I've heard podcasts with him on there, so I've heard him speak, but I haven't read his book.
Okay, so his first book was written with a student, like an early student. And it was just hard to actually understand what the heck he was talking about, frankly. Like, I love Wim. He's an incredible teacher, magnanimous personality. He's awesome, and I love it. But I love to spend time with him. He's very inspiring. But to try to read the concepts that he was talking about for his method in that book, personally, I just found it difficult.
Sure.
Now that I understand the method and know everything, about it, it'd be easy for me to get it. But at first I struggled. So it took a little while to actually understand like where he's at. Like this concept of Tumo, which is like a heat meditation, and different parts about it. Like that took a long time to kind of wrap my head around. But when they came out with the online series, where they were basically Wim guiding people through online training, like that was the first time I actually got to see it all sort of put together.
Okay.
And, so within 2 weeks of training that, it was like, oh, I get it. All of a sudden I had tons more energy.
Sure.
And as an entrepreneur and somebody that works all the time, and I'm a single dad, and I've got a lot of different pieces that I'm juggling. I need a lot of energy. Like, so when I experience a lot more energy tangibly, I'm like, oh, this is great. I can latch on to this. When I go out of the shower, singing Kristof like a goon. Like I'd walk out of the shower and just be like singing happy, ridiculous little songs.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of those things that I was like, all right, I'm really seeing this connection, and I'm willing to tolerate the discomfort to have that tangible result.
The end result. Yeah, that's so funny. And let me stop you for 1 second. My wife and I have she'll be 7-week-old on Friday. So like, I just want to say like, we look at each other and, you know, I mean, with all respect, like being a single dad, dude, like I got mad props for you, dude. Like we could not do it. So like I thought like one of the first thoughts, and this is funny, like one of the first thoughts that I ever had after being a parent was like, I don't know how single parents do it. So like if the Wim Hof stuff wasn't enough for the people listening, like being a single dad as well as doing everything that you do is like super impressive to me.
Well, thank you. I mean, as you know, having a kid super challenging. You're at one of the most challenging stages for sure. Really up there. You know, and to relate sort of like the way the method relates to like a child, I almost felt like a new child again.
Okay.
Like going through the steps and having these different, like pretty strong shifts every day for the first 2 weeks. I felt like I was just redoing myself. I don't know how to explain it, but it was really powerful.
I kind of understand that. Like I've described it before. Like in my mid-20s, I kind of had this like life epiphany where like you just said, I kind of was born again. Like I became a new person. I realized like I wasn't very good in school. I dropped out of college, and then I started like reading and listening to podcasts, and I was like, holy shit, I love learning. And my mind like really began just to become this new person. And so I totally, that resonates with me, and I fully understand that. And I would encourage anybody to continue to pursue like what you and I are talking about, because that is a tangible thing. Like that can happen. Like people say people don't change, but I firmly do believe that people do change, because it's not, you just changed, and I know that I changed.
Yeah. I mean, you literally can rewire your brain.
Yes.
I've experienced that through this method, and obviously through other skill endeavors that I practice and so forth.
Yeah.
And different mindfulness and books and podcasts, all of these things aid. But that was sort of the Wim Hof method for me, the fundamental shift in so many different ways in areas of my life. And so those beginning stages are really big. The other piece was that I was competing in jiu-jitsu at the time. And I ended up, leg locks were just coming on the scene. And it's a submission type of hold where you're trying to intentionally damage a leg. And I had, since they were pretty brand new, sometimes recognizing them early enough to tap out, which is the part that keeps you safe, sometimes challenging, and you get into these deep competition settings. And anyway, there's some challenges around that. So I was also healing from injuries during that time. And so one of the other tangible benefits that I found was, the inflammation in my leg is going down. I'm not having as much pain.
Yeah.
I'm healing faster. That was huge. And so as the weeks sort of led on, the practice was just super encouraging, And so again, in the discomfort around the cold, I was like, I'll take that. That's way better than, say, the pain in my leg.
Yeah.
Different things like that were sort of wrapped in there. So it was multifaceted for sure.
Yeah, I totally understand that. That pain in the leg, that resonates with me. Like I remember running a lot at one point in my life, like a lot. And we were running by the ocean. For your knowledge, from my background, I was Navy, did a lot of running on beaches, a lot of water things as well, and a lot of cold water. I was on the Pacific and the Atlantic, and I know we do these beach runs and my legs would be like screaming. And the one thing that I like literally prayed for at the end of my run was like to be told to go in the water, because the water was so damn cold, and it was the only thing, like the pain just immediately melted away. And in that moment, I was like, I absolutely love this. But I mean, of course, there were other moments where I was like, this is terrible. I don't want to be cold anymore. But there was definitely a lot of moments where that, and you're right, like the immediate, like, okay, it might be really bad now, but I am going to benefit from it later. And I think that's really important. But it's really cool to hear how you got into all of this. I'm always curious about like what age. I think age is very arbitrary. I don't think it necessarily matters with what you do. I think like the experience, like people say experience comes with age. I think experience comes with like the amount of things you've shoved into the amount of time you've had to live. But like in your life, like when did you said 14 was like the cold water experience, but in your life, when did all this stuff start evolving?
Well, so for martial arts, my dad got me involved in martial art pretty early. Like at the age of 6, I was taking my first karate class.
Super early. Yeah, that's awesome.
But it wasn't my primary gig. My primary thing was soccer. I tried lots of different sports.
That. Yeah, absolutely.
Several martial arts, growing up. I tried Aikido. I tried, boxing in my garage, after watching different boxing matches on television. So I definitely had like a lot of touch and go experiences early on in martial art. Sure. But wasn't until I was about 20, probably 24, 25, I'm going to estimate, maybe 23, where I came across a guy in California that totally inspired me. And he was just one of these people that just the way he held himself, the way he interacted with people, he just had mindset and focus that was on a different level than I'd experienced with somebody. And he was very skillful, and I loved the way he taught. And I took martial art classes from several months, and it was like that short period at the beginning in sort of my early mid-20s really set me on a path to saying, I want to be skilled in this area. Yeah. And so I basically looked for any martial arts school in my area that I could train in, because I was moving around quite a bit at that time, and just got a lot of exposure early. When I moved to Seattle back in 2008, I found the school that I'm a part of now, that I actually own now. And it was just incredible. It was an incredible school. And Kristof, I just become an assistant instructor when I found out the school was going to be for sale. And I was so dedicated to this school because it was really, it hit all the points for me. It had meditation aspect. It was very practical self-defense. Frankly, it worked better than anything I ever experienced before in any martial art. They were talking about nervous system development here. It just had a different conversation and tone to it. And so I was really gravitated, very invested in it. And I was doing work in some financial services area at the time, and just doing this as my hobby. Wow. And I was really connected to the community in the school. And I said, what do you mean it's going to be for sale? And it might even close, because they weren't sure if they could find somebody to sell it. Sure. And so I'm sitting around with a group of 5 or 6 guys, and this is the message that I hear, the first meeting that I've ever been a part of as an instructor there. And I go, okay, I got to figure this out. Immediately after, for whatever reason, you get these moments in life where you see, like, I'm just going to go for it. I don't even know what the hell I'm going for fully, but I'm going to take this leap. I love it. And it was one of those, I took the leap. And I said, Mark, who was the owner at that time, I said, Mark, how can we make this work? I'll buy the school. And he looks at me, he kind of shakes his head. He's like, what? I was like, let's do it. I was like, is this a possibility? Can I buy this school? And he sort of nodded for a moment, he said, well, let's see if we can figure that out. And sure enough, over the course of a very short time, I think it was like probably 2 or 3 months, we put together a way to buy the school, bring back the founder of the art so that he could help teach a lot of the advanced classes. What? Everybody else, the assistant instructors, all rallied to support me. And we just dug in, man.
That is badass.
So that was quite a few years ago at this point. But now I've been the school owner now since 2010. And it's just continued to evolve and shape my life in beautiful and meaningful ways.
Matt, that's an incredible story. I just want to stop everybody to realize what just happened. You had a different career. You're doing that part-time. That was your first meeting as like a part-time instructor, I think you said. And then you're like, oh, the business is for sale. And this, like, I don't know, like in my mind, I have a good imagination. I'm like, I can just envision you like, I'm the new guy here or whatever, and you're like, I'll buy the place. And you took that leap, and like, dude, like that's what you need to capture, everybody listening right now. Like that experience that you just described, that I just reiterated, you jumped in, you took it, you took the leap, and now like look where you are now. Like you went all in on something that like you knew that was a good organization, you like how it worked, you were passionate about it, you like the people you work with, they rallied to support you. And again, it goes back to the first thing we were talking about, like having a good group of people and then supporting each other about what you're passionate about. So that's encapsulated right there, like in your mid-20s when that started happening. And then like flash forward now to like 8 or 9 years later, and you're doing this. And then like 5 years ago, you started the Wim Hof Method stuff. And like, dude, it's pretty incredible. And that's like one thing that you just articulated really well without maybe even us even knowing, but that I like to capture on the podcast is that transition right there of like, people are like, I'll digress for 1 second. People see Matt now, they see you and they go, hey, this is who he is. He runs this, successful business. He does Wim Hof. Like, oh my gosh, he's so lucky to be able to do this stuff. That's really cool that he does it. But I think a lot of times what I try to point out is people don't see how people actually got to where they got. And that's one thing that I want to articulate to people, and that you literally just said. So that to me is really great. I think it's super inspirational. I'm inspired. Like for those listening, I'm grinning. Like the whole time you were talking the story, I was like, this is badass, like this is really cool. So I don't like, not that you take it for granted, but I just want you to know, like, from a different perspective, like, I think that's incredible that you did that. Not a lot of people would do that. And I hope through your story that more people do that.
Me too. And I'm thank you for pointing that out. Like, it was a big risk. And sometimes as people that are, entrepreneurs or looking to take a big leap in life, in their career, or wherever they're going to, make that risk, it can be a challenge. You look at that and it's scary, and you go, oh man, what if I fail? What if I, all of these like what ifs that can cause a lot of inhibition. But I think we've all experienced those moments in life where there's something in your gut that says, if I commit, it's going to be okay. And you have to have that leap of faith. I mean, they call it a little bit of leap of faith. And it's not without hard work. It's not like a blind, shut your eyes, and it's going to be,
Glad you said that.
I don't put in the work. Because I will tell you, it was a tremendous amount of fun work. You know what I mean?
Dude,
like,
I can't imagine.
It was just,
yeah.
I was playing, man. There's no question. And I had to be. It was during the recession. The school, didn't actually make that much money in terms of profit. I was supporting a family. Like, I had a lot to work with. I had a lot I needed to do in order to make this happen. But I had that feeling like this is right. This is the right path for me.
Sure. And
I will make it. I'm going to make it work. And as you mentioned, it inspired others to help rally around and support that idea.
And then I was committed, just man.
One track.
Yeah, because I think, like, I look out from the outside perspective again, and if I saw somebody just came in, they're like, part-time, they're like, dude, I'm going to buy this. I'm all in. Let's make it happen. I love what's going on here. If I was, like, sitting on the side and I saw you, I'd be like, yeah, I got this dude's back for sure, like, without a doubt, because I'm sure those people saw how committed you were because you had no other option. You said that it was not a good time economically in the States. It was, you had a family to support. All these things were going on. So I think that when you decided that, you already decided it was going to be successful. And you said, not without all the hard work, but you knew you were going to make it happen. And you were like 100% all in mentally already before it even started.
Absolutely. And so that mindset is a principle. It's a principle of the Wim Hof Method. And I think that's one of the reasons I was super attracted to it. It's this idea of commitment. It exists in my martial art. And it's just, let's do this. Let's go.
Hell yeah. I love that, man. Do you think there is something that you can give us right now, the people listening, maybe like something like super quick that we can do? I don't know. I don't want to insult the method and I don't want to insult you, but is there something like in 30 to 60 seconds we can do right now?
You mean around the method?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah.
So there's several things that we could do, but let's just couch it into one mindset piece, since that's sort of been the theme and the topic today.
Let's make it happen.
All right. One of the things about the method is that it reinforces this idea that we need to be committed to our practice and committed to the moment. And so I try to practice, like, for example, visualization techniques, and I lead people. Like when I was on tour with Wim Hof, we've got a huge crowd of people where it's easily able to get distracted and not be able to connect with a large audience.
Yeah.
And you can do it with a small group, where it's hard to connect even to a small group sometimes if you're distracted. So this idea of taking our mindset and pulling full focus and resolve into a moment. And so what we can do here is do one of the preps for getting in the cold, for example.
All right.
Right. So if you just close your eyes for a minute.
Sure.
And you just breathe slowly. I'm just going to walk you through getting into an ice bath for the first time.
All right.
So that you can practice being calm in the midst of stress. So as we've got our eyes closed, when you picture yourself with full resolve stepping into that ice bath, how does it make you feel?
Cold.
Cold. Right? You can feel the cold all over your skin.
Yeah.
It's sometimes painful. It's shocking. Now, you sit down and you concentrate on controlling your breath, breathing out, and feeling that you are in control of that stressful process. And as you do that, you can picture your whole body just let go and relax. And so even though it feels stressful and difficult around you, you just feel calm and in control. You're in control of your breath. You're not gasping. Everything is smooth. Once you've made that transition, you step up, you calmly step out of the water, and staying focused, feel your body start to generate heat and warm up. Kristof, you're just successful for your first ice bath. If you haven't taken one before.
It felt great.
And if you're already, I'd love you to do it for real.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
thank you. That was incredible. Like, that felt awesome. I do meditation in the morning, and it like flashed me back into my morning routine where I do meditation when I wake up, and it felt great. And I may dare say that I might take a cold bath, and I'll have to replay this and listen to it as you're talking, so I can really get the full, like, actually in there. But no, that's really cool, and I think that's like one of the things that I think that's great about that is not just for the physicality of it, but obviously the mentality of it. And I don't even think like you do a lot of physical stuff, like, you know, all the sports we've been talking about as well. But I think like you're an entrepreneur as well. And I think all of this, being able to take hold of your mind like that and be able to control it for this tough, I think, did you mention stress, like the stress you get when you get in the water? You mentioned something like that, but being able to handle that in a physically cold as shit situation, I think will help you manage the stress in your life, entrepreneurially, relationships, or whatever, literally whatever you want to do.
It is 100% transferable. I've experienced that in a number of ways in my life. There's no question about it. So using the cold is a stress. It causes our body to go through physiological rejection for that beat because it's a danger potentially, right? So having that stressor, that cold stressor, is a really useful tool for the mindset, for the body too, but for the mindset to be in the midst of that stress and stay relaxed, calm, and control. That's one of the essential pieces of the practice, you know. So if you haven't taken a cold bath yet, I really encourage you to start there. It'll help if you learn the breathing technique. You can download the Wim Hof Method app. You know, there's a free app that can give you the super basics that can begin your breathing. So you could start there, and then I'd love to hear back from you and see how it went and see if it doesn't help in your own career and so forth.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna write it down right now as we're talking for everybody. Write it down as I'm writing it down. Wim Hof app. I'm gonna write this down right now, and I'm gonna check it out. Now, like I said, I've done a lot of like cold water stuff, sometimes by choice, sometimes not by choice, but it's funny. but listen, like I think it's really funny. I give you the example of like running on the beach, right? So that was a moment where my body was in a lot of pain, and that cold water felt good. And then the same cold water, and like literally minutes later or something, was terrible. It was probably the worst thing in my life. And the water didn't change. The only thing that changed was my mind and how I felt about it. Of course, maybe my legs were maybe a little bit more screaming before and not so much after. But at the same time, the water doesn't change. My mind changed. My body changed. And I can change my body with my mind and how I react to that just by doing those things that you've just described now. So I do appreciate you giving us like a quick consultation on that. And that was awesome.
Right on.
Yeah. So what are you doing right now with this stuff? Where do you see this going? I mean, you're still an entrepreneur, still doing that. You're still doing the Wim Hof stuff, but where do you see this going from that?
You know, what I've explored for is the variety of applications of which I can apply the Wim Hof Method. And I'm testing it in a number of different ways. Emotionally, I'm testing it. I'm testing it from a mindset and focus point of view, from a physical point of view, all these different modalities. And I'm trying to see, you know, one of the things I do on a daily basis is I wake up, I do the basic protocol, and I'll do creative meditations afterward. And it allows me to get deeper into a meditation creatively. Or if I need to have a compassion meditation, it'll allow me to get into deeper there. 2 weeks, or let's see, I guess 1 month ago, not 2 weeks, it's been about a month now, I climbed to Mount Kilimanjaro, you know, in awesome. Really rapid time. You know, we did it under 48 hours. Me and two other guys actually got to the summit in 33 hours and 52 minutes. Incredibly fast. Yeah. And we method the whole way to get there, you know, so we got to put the method to the test in that circumstance in high altitude training, really rapid ascent. I ran about 9 miles on the descent, and Kristof, I didn't get sore because of the method, because of the way it flushes out lactic acid. So I got to apply in that. I don't typically run. I do a lot of martial arts training. I do a lot of good stuff like that, a lot of physical stuff, but I don't run on a regular basis. And I was a little sore right at the end, but immediately it went away.
That's crazy.
Immediately it went away.
Yeah.
So I'm applying it in a physical context. I'm applying it in an entrepreneurial context. How can I stay and keep my energy levels sustained high enough that I can still maintain a 15, 16-hour workday and then, be able to take care of my daughter and look after all of her needs and so forth.
Dude.
So I'm just trying to see, how can I play with the thing and enjoy the most? I love carrying this message to people. I've had a wonderful opportunity to tour with Wim Hof in the U.S. and Canada. It sounds like I'll get that opportunity again this year, so I look forward to the 2019 U.S. tour. I do a lot of retreats where I get to take people through a variety of their own training and depth so that they can really discover, resiliency within themselves and the applications that they're interested in. So I just continue to further this end. That's really what I'm looking forward to in 2019.
That's awesome. And that gets me excited. I think it's just really cool that I think one thing's important is you can get to these levels, business owner, doing all the things that you've just described, but you always take it to the next limit. And it's really cool how we talked about there being so many ways that you can use that method, that mindset. You just climbed a mountain using it. You ran using it, all these things. And I think what that explains is once you really get a hold of your mind and whatever method you want to use, whether it's that or something else, getting a hold of your brain and your mindset and be able to harness its power, literally anything's possible. And you can just change your trajectory and you can use it for anything you want. But I'm so glad you've described all these things, and I'm so glad you were on the show, and I'm so glad we just got to talk about all these things, man. It was super, super fun, and I'm very, very thankful for you being on here, and thank you so much for your time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope that we can cross paths again.
Absolutely.
Sounds like I think you're in New York or so. Is that right?
Oh, I'm actually down in D.C. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast. I'm in D.C. So if you come out here, definitely hit me up. I'm very interested in that.
All right. I hope that we can go to the ocean or take an ice bath or something, man.
Yeah. So Matt, what's the best way that people can find you for any of the multitude of reasons that, we've talked about today, whether it be jiu-jitsu, any of the martial arts, Wim Hof stuff, or they just want to connect with you because you're an awesome dude?
Thank you. So Instagram is great. I'm SouleMD on Instagram, SULEMD. So that's one great way. I've got my website that sort of branches off to all the other websites and businesses that I have is mattsoule.com. So METTSOULE.com. So that's a really easy way to find and to find me there.
Oh, Matt, thank you so much for being here, man. And you come out here, we'll hang out, we'll do the Wim Hof stuff. You'll get me in water, maybe, I don't know. But I think I'll be in good hands with you. But yeah, man, thank you so much for being here.
Right on. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, see ya.
Take care.